What's going on, man? Back for another one of these?
Yeah, absolutely. So what are we talking about this week?
Well, I'm kind of interested in this one. Calvin really introduced me to this. Michael Jordan has been investing into a NASCAR team, and they won the first 3 races of the season, which I guess is unheard of.
It's unprecedented. Nobody's ever done it before.
Yeah, never been done. Craziest thing ever. But he was telling me a little bit about kind of Jordan's, I know him as a basketball player, and that's about the extent of my NBA knowledge. I know he's one of the greatest, if not the greatest player to ever play in the NBA. But I'm not a big sports guy, so I don't really follow all this along. But he was telling me that he then transferred into an owner and did not have a lot of success as an owner.
Yeah, there was a lot of, we talked about this yesterday, there was a lot of controversy. There was, they didn't have a lot of success in terms of their performance.
Mm-hmm.
And that all blew back on him because he was the owner and the GM.
Right.
And so, what was it, Calvin, the other day? So we came across something where an interview where somebody said that Michael Jordan had so many incompetent people around him giving him bad advice that the guy felt like that some of them were probably saboteurs.
Yeah, that was
or spies.
Longtime NBA legend coach Larry Brown.
Okay.
Yeah.
Who was I think he was one of the first coaches for him under the Wizards, maybe even the Bobcats. I'm not 100% sure. But yeah, he did make mentions of the people that Jordan had around him as being, he couldn't tell whether they were his friends or his enemies.
That is wild.
So I think that what we're talking about here really is, we know Michael Jordan, obviously, as you just stated, greatest basketball player, or, I'm sure they have many debates about that now. But obviously among the greatest basketball players and well-known sports names
I love how you're like justifying that so we don't get any heat online, because I think if we start to say he's the best, we're just going to get flamed.
Well, because obviously we're going to get, flamed for not knowing enough about basketball. Like, we're not even allowed to talk about Michael Jordan, but we're talking about the business of Michael Jordan right now.
Well, it's a regular thing that being the best in your field can actually make you a terrible business owner. And it really can. I mean, not to put any negativity on you, but you are one of the best makers of cases that exist. You make a great case for your pool cues, but you're maybe not such a great business owner at times. Would you agree with that?
Oh, I'm a terrible business owner.
Right. And so I think that's happening here to Jordan. Is he was one of the best basketball players in the world, but not such a great team owner, not such a great business-minded guy for basketball.
Right, and I think that is a very good example for that, because you if you're a maker or you're a performer and you're really, really good at that, right? That's your passion. That's what you want to do.
Right.
And we've talked a lot about this on this podcast about entrepreneurs who want to be doing the thing that they're best at, but they won't let go of the business side of it and hire people who can take care of that.
What do you think that is about the entrepreneur mindset that makes people struggle to jump from like being great at a skill set, but not so great at the business?
Well, part of it, I think, is a control issue and an ego issue, because you think that if you've mastered one thing, then the other things aren't that difficult to master.
I think that takes place here. Jordan's ego of being such a great player, I think, really struggled to have him, work on developing long-term talent. He wants everybody to be just as good as him right away.
I think that is probably part of it. He famously had what he called the Breakfast Club. Mm-hmm. He had a full-size NBA court at his house in Chicago.
Right.
And he would basically more or less force the team to come over to his house in the mornings.
Yeah.
And literally work out for like an hour or two before, and he'd have his people, his staff cook breakfast for everybody, and then they would go to the stadium and practice. Right. But that's how driven he was. Like, Jordan famously in interviews would say he would kind of bristle when people would compliment his talent.
Mm-hmm.
And he would say things like, well, anyone could be as talented as me if they worked as hard.
Right.
You know, and then I think, Calvin, I'm sure you can correct me if I'm wrong on this, but wasn't Jordan cut from like his varsity team or something at one point?
His freshman high school team.
His freshman high school team. And then he went and he, worked twice as hard. Jordan is an example of what we see in books like The Talent Code. You've heard of the 10,000 hour rule.
Mm-hmm.
And stuff like that. Well, the study found that the most elite performers, right? You have your world class, and then you have your above world class, which are like the elite, the ones that everyone knows, the best of the best of the best. The difference is that the world class performers basically practice just as much as they had to get to world class.
Mm-hmm.
But the elite performers practiced longer and deeper, and so they did what they called it was deep practice.
Mm-hmm.
So when you got a guy that pushes himself that hard,
yeah,
and then he pushes the people around him to rise up as much as they can to his level, towards his level, and then he goes on to become an owner, how hard is it then for the people that are working with him to feel like they have to live up to his expectation? And how hard is it for him to realize that now as a manager and as an owner, he's in a different position?
Yeah, I think he ran into that a little bit with the yes man situation. He was such a dominant force in kind of the boardroom and being the GM and making decisions that a lot of people were probably too scared to disagree with him. And I think that happens to a lot of people when they're coming up and they're building their business. I hired, my very first hire was somebody who constantly calls me dumb. Tiffany is always on my case about fixing stuff and doing stuff the right way and not messing around. And she was on my butt today when I didn't charge one of my clients because I fell for a sob story and I didn't charge a particular client. Very nice lady, and I hope it helped her out. But she's like, you got to charge these people. What are you doing, man? Like, get on it. And so I really firmly believe that one of your first hires needs to be somebody who is not afraid to say yes to you or say no to you. And I think a lot of times guys will hire, their wives or their friends or their buddies, or they'll get people in there who are not at the same level as them and are too afraid to say no.
Yeah, I think Don fills that role for me.
The yes man role?
No,
or the no man
not
role?
the yes man, the no man role. Because
okay.
he's like a negative Nelly on no matter what it is I want to say or do. He first comes up with every possible objection to it that there is.
Yeah, it's nice. It's annoying to have that person in your court, but it's sometimes nice. It can help you out.
No, I think it's good, and I mean, I've got him to just be immediately negative. I've got you to be analytical about it.
Yeah. Well, and we share that same delusion as business owners of being kind of delusionally optimistic that things are going to work out. But I try to temper it with some knowledge.
Yeah. But I think this really goes back to what we've spoken about lots of times, which is hire for your weaknesses.
100%.
And if you're such a dominant guy like Michael Jordan, in your own field.
Yeah.
And you've had just strings and strings of successes, the shoe deal where he got points on that and everything, and then he did his own shoe brand,
right?
Or his own clothing and shoe brand and everything, and he's had a tremendous success with that, stuff like that. It can be something where you get to be a bit of a control freak, and you don't realize that you can't really steer all those ships the right way, Yeah,
it's a real problem when you grow as a business. When you go from like a one-man operation, you can kind of handle a lot of the stuff that's coming your way, even though you have to wear a bunch of hats. Then you start making some hires and you grow. And what you find is that as the founder of any company, you really have to grow even faster than your company. You got to grow alongside it, but you got to grow ahead of it. Otherwise, you're going to get sucked down into the mess. And what that is it's kind of a shift in mindset from what we call a closer, somebody who's out there grinding, into sort of an architect, somebody who is setting other people up for success. And so you're hiring for your weaknesses, you're building your business, and you're building an organization where other people can shine and perform well. And You've got to give them the tools to be able to do that.
Exactly. Now, one of the things I've noticed in my business, especially with Chester's, the pool room, right?
Mm-hmm.
Is I'm constantly noticing small things, right? And I think that's what an entrepreneur is kind of built for,
Right.
is to notice all these small things, to want to solve these problems. And they have like a really way higher expectation than they should that other people are noticing these things.
Right.
Because other people are just living their life and they're getting through their life and they don't see things as a problem like the entrepreneur does.
Yeah, that's 100% true. Nobody is paying attention to the small details like the entrepreneur or the owner or founder or whatever you want to call it.
Right. And then but the flip side of that is that the entrepreneur can get bogged down and get irrationally upset about the small things. And then we get back to the don't sweat the small stuff type stuff, right?
Yeah. Well, really, the owner becomes the bottleneck of most businesses, and it becomes a disaster.
Right. And I'm sensing, with this story about Jordan, that's kind of probably what happened. You had a very strong personality with a well-earned reputation for success in his sport. Who probably thought that he knew a lot more about the business side of it than he actually did.
Which is why our number 2 step in our building your business plan is to become an expert, not just in your industry, but in the business around your industry. So you might be the best plumber, the best electrician, the best, case maker or whatever, but you are not the best at payroll and HR duties and insurance and accounting and taxes and all that stuff. And you don't have to become an expert in all these areas to start a business, but you have to at least know how they work and how they get taken care of. And like we talked about, hiring for those weaknesses.
Absolutely. That's the thing that I'm having to learn, is to just stop micromanaging, even in my own mind.
Yeah.
Because And I'm kind of ashamed to admit this right now, but I have walked through life looking at other people not doing what I think is the right thing or not noticing the things that I think should be obvious to everyone, and thinking to myself, how can these people be so stupid? Why are they not seeing this?
Mm-hmm.
And honestly, I've never actually answered the question.
Right.
Of why they're not seeing it. And the reason they're not seeing it is because they're not wired like I'm wired.
That's correct.
That's not their focus on how to get through life.
No.
So it's your job as the owner and the entrepreneur and everything to get your team set up so that it does work together. So you find a good balance, because they're never going to be you. And the more you expect them to be you, the ones that could be you are going to go out and be you.
Right.
And you're going to be left with the ones that can't,
Right.
And then those people are going to have to face it with the teams that they create. So that's the magic here, where the entrepreneur has to sit back and say, what don't I know?
Yes. Yeah. And also at this point in Jordan's career, bringing it back to that, is he's now pivoted. Now, did he leave the NBA? Is that right, Calvin? He's no longer an owner, or he's just a part-time owner?
He sold his majority share. He is still a minority owner in the team.
Gotcha. So instead of trying to take on this role, he figured out that maybe this wasn't for him, pivoted, and now he's investing into NASCAR of all things, which I think is wild, but that's exciting.
So in the NASCAR story here, we need to be clear that even though this three-peat on the wins here, or the first 3 wins of the season, even though that's historic, as we studied it a little yesterday, and I don't know if you got to look at that, but it there's a little bit of a luck factor there too.
Oh, sure. Sure. But, like we say with luck, it's all about being in the position to get lucky.
Right. And that's the point that Jordan made when they interviewed him.
Mm-hmm.
He said that in his mind, in his estimation, they are doing the right things to put themselves in the position to be able to take those opportunities when they show up.
Right.
And therefore that's part of the reason why they've been able to have the success early in the season.
Right.
Additionally, I believe,
Well, he took on the kind of adage of this of, finding the mastermind to kind of run the business.
That's what I was going to say.
It's an old saying, but a good one to repeat is that you do not need to be the smartest person in the room. You just got to have them working for you. You got to hire them.
Yeah.
So if you go out and hire the smartest people or the best people for the job, you can kind of be a laid back boss. You don't have to be a tyrant anymore.
You can be. Now what? Now
you just got to give them the resources.
The thing with that though is that, you have to at least know enough to know whether or not the people around you are being productive or are they wasting the money.
That's true. And you do have to have the oversight to know whether they're actually doing the job correctly and doing things right.
But if you've hired correctly and then you can feel confident that you can just let them go and let them do it.
Right. And so, I think Jordan found that he was not a great business owner, but he was a great leader or a great investor, a great cheerleader, a great guy to have on the team. But he hired this guy, Denny Hamlin, to run his NASCAR team and just gave him the autonomy to run the day-to-day operations, putting a lot of trust in him to get these wins. And it worked for him.
Now, it says here that they win because they treat their mechanics and engineers like world-class athletes, providing top-tier facilities and job security.
If you give your people the resources that they need to achieve, they will pull through for you, is my opinion anyway. If you give them the processes and the facilities and you treat them well, I think people step up and they work extra hard.
I don't disagree with that. And I think that it also becomes apparent when someone is not stepping up, despite having the resources.
Right.
But it's like in pool, right? Sometimes we say a person misses a shot and they don't know why they missed the shot. They get angry, but they're irrationally angry because they have no background to know why they missed the shot. Mm-hmm. Here, you've got a situation where you're giving your people the best tools, the best environment that you can. Now it's much easier to analyze, when something goes wrong, why it went wrong.
Right.
It's not because you have a lack of resources. It's not because you have a lack of tools or culture, good culture.
Yeah, fair enough. Well, in your business, you've kind of transitioned more from the day-to-day operations into the big picture stuff, or we've been working on that the last few years. How do you feel moving into that role? Has it been really tough to let go and let other people take over stuff? I know Lulu's been paramount in that, but
yeah, but I'm actually able to do it. Even yesterday, I was speaking with one of the employees, and she started complaining about the schedule and everything, and I was like, "I'm sorry, I literally said that's not my job."
Yeah. Which is
and
only something an owner is allowed to say. If I hear my employees say that, I'm going to lose my shit.
Yeah, well, I mean, I didn't say it exactly in that way. I just said I literally said it that way. But what I said to her was I said that I made the decision to kind of be hands off on the schedule and stuff like that, just because I don't want to micromanage, and she should speak to the GM,
Right.
And that I will tell the GM that she's looking to speak with him. Right. And that's where I kind of left it.
That's a good move.
Because that just frees my mind up to focus on the bigger picture stuff, and not get dragged down into the minutia.
Right. Right. And that's what you need to do as a founder or an entrepreneur, somebody who's growing in success, is you got to get those people in, delegate the tasks so that you can focus on what's more important, not the schedule.
I think I found a pretty cool little hack yesterday. So, and in a small sense, this kind of goes back to like Steve Jobs and his reality distortion field. For those of you that don't know, first of all, speaking of hiring, when Steve Jobs was asked, what the number one piece of advice he would give to people about, or number one reason for success, he said it would be hiring, taking the time to really hire well.
Yeah, I have to completely agree with that. In any business, hiring is the hardest part. Finding people to fill roles for your business and the right people is very difficult.
Yeah, and I think that's one of the things that you have really helped me out with, because I was always trying to cheap out and thinking I couldn't afford good people and so on.
Oh,
And
it's just so worth it to pay a little extra to get somebody who really knows what they're doing and has some experience, or even just finding somebody that you can take the time to train works fine too. But you've got to have that kind of cost budgeted into your system.
absolutely. And that's what I was getting ready to say. So the hiring is super important, but the little hack that I think I figured out is I just don't accept their excuses.
Yeah.
So when I say I want something done and they start in with the excuses, I say, I believe in you. I know you can do it, because humans, and especially you, are extremely good at overcoming adversity.
That is a very positive way. You feel like that's working better for you?
Well, it at least worked for them to get off their asses and get the kitchen done. And now we're cooking in the kitchen. So
it worked.
I mean,
you're batting 1,000 on that.
Because strategy. I was like, all I heard yesterday was a litany of negativity, right? This excuse, that excuse, and everything. And I said, guess what, guys? I believe in you. You guys will work it out. You're smarter than the machines. And lo and behold, here we are. So I'm going to try that for a while.
I think it's good. You get more flies with honey, right? And that
I'm not sure if that's particularly what it was, but it was just me basically.
I think it is. You were being positive.
It was basically me saying, without saying it in an angry way, stop it with the excuses and just get it done.
Yeah. It's a positivity.
It was a positive way of saying stop it with the excuses and get it done.
Yeah. Yeah. It tends to work better than stop complaining and get shit done.
Yeah.
And yelling at them.
Yeah.
All right. Well, we got a little checklist, I think, for the business owners out there of just a few things to look at. So first, are you currently the closer or the architect in your business? So meaning, are you the guy or gal driving the big picture ideas of your company, or are you the bottleneck still stuck doing the day-to-day operations? And if you are, how can you get out of that? How can you outsource some of your work? How can you work with people like Turtlesmith or work with hire new people and delegate their tasks to them so that you can be concentrating on the big picture?
Yeah. Part of that I'm finding out is what's very essential. If you're the architect in your business and you're the one that's big picture, you cannot absolutely just give somebody something and say, run with it without checking back in. The one thing that you must do is you must, at the very least, have regular intervals that you check in and you say, what's up with this project? Where are we at?
That's very true, especially if it's a long-term project. I like to set moderate goals throughout. So like right now, our team's working on a new kind of a way to process clients in. It's a little bit of a longer term project. So every week I've been checking in with the team, where are we at? And then we set goals for the following week. And so, you cannot just leave. You cannot just hire people, tell them what to do and hope that they just get it all done. You have to be following up and checking.
That used to be my problem because I assumed
that they were all you. And
I assumed that they all had, a certain level of intelligence and drive. Mm-hmm. And that if I just explain the concept, they will see it and go, oh, yes, that's the most greatest thing I've ever heard in the world. I can't wait to jump on that and get it all done in 10 minutes.
Right.
And that is completely unrealistic. But, if you do check in with them and you give them, you have good input, then, and you have a realistic time frame, then these things will get done.
Yeah.
And if they don't, then maybe it's time to look at somebody else. But, that's, once again, giving them the room to do it, but not just delegating it to the point where you're just completely absent and gone.
Right. All right. So, next one on the list is, are you building an institution that survives your presence or just a monument to your own personality? Meaning, we talked about this pretty hard in our succession planning episodes and some other stuff, but can your business survive without you? Are you building, even if it can't right now, are you building something that can eventually outlive you or survive without you so you could sell it or pass it on or give it away? I mean, is the company that you're building, are the processes in place, are the people in place to run this without your ego or your drive making everything happen?
So we have in pool, we have a famous case of this, where a cue maker unexpectedly died in his I think mid-50s, and he had built.
That's too mid-50s is just a little too early, I think. You die in your 50s.
I think it's a lot too early.
You die in your 50s, people are like, it's a tragedy. You die in your 60s, they're like, he was getting there. Die in your 70s, you're like, all right, that makes sense. But 50s, too early.
Yeah, really. Well, anyway, he was in his prime. They were at the point where him and his wife were set to start traveling the world and just going to exotic locations and buying wood, and shipping it back and having his people make cues.
Mm-hmm.
And so at that point, he didn't really have to be in the shop. Like, he had set it up, all the processes, everything. He said, this is how I want to do. The cues had earned a great reputation. They had a 10-year waiting list at that point.
Good Lord.
And he dies, right? So the company has continued the whole time, right? And now they're, I think, up to like a 14 or 15-year waiting list.
It's still after the founder's passing.
Yeah, but there's the debate still comes around. Are the cues as good as they were when he was alive or not?
Well, I would say the growth in the waiting period would argue that they're just as good.
Exactly, because he had set up all the processes and he wasn't needed at that point, really.
Yeah.
It's just a name at that moment because he had set up a company to outlive him. And it has.
Yeah.
And so now any talk now of the cue being any less quality is just nonsense.
Yeah.
There is no possible way that someone could look at a cue made this year and made the year before he died and tell or know of any difference other than the engraving on the cue saying the year it was made.
Well, fair enough. That sounds like the perfect example of a business that outlasted its founder.
Yeah. And I often say that I made a post yesterday. My wife designed a case.
Mm-hmm.
She was real proud of it. She had it made. The shop did it exactly what she wanted. She put it up. And I basically made a quip. I said, this is a design from the greatest living case maker. I'm a little biased, but I think giving her those accolades is worth it because of how hard she works and does that. But it's also a testament to the fact that she just doesn't need me in this process anymore because she's been there the whole time, learned along with me, set up these processes along with me.
You made the case, you designed it, you perfected it, and now you're no longer needed.
Correct.
And that's what it's supposed to be.
Yeah. Now I can turn my attention towards other things and making other things happen, which is what we're doing with Chester's and the Academy and other stuff. And ultimately, isn't that what you really want? You don't want a cult of personality per se.
Yep.
You want to leave an impact,
Right.
You want to be able to do things. Ingvar Kamprad, the founder of IKEA or however you say it, said one thing that stuck with me all these years. And they used to get criticized for having part of their supply chain was in like third world countries, African countries, places like that. And people would call them exploitive, And he would say, no, if you go and you look at what we demand of the factories that we partner with, the conditions that we demand and everything, the only reason that we can demand this of these people is because of the volume that we bring to them, because profit is resources.
Right.
So if we use those resources properly, then we can make life better for a lot more people that are connected to us.
Yeah.
And that's always stayed with me, and I think it's true.
Yeah. Well, I think to circle back to our main topic, Jordan found out that he could not develop this process of success that would outlast him in basketball, but I think he's found it in NASCAR. He set up the team, and I don't.
Well, one thing we know about Jordan is he loves winning.
Yeah, that's true.
So obviously, this is going to play really well with him,
right?
And I would say that we probably have to. It's hard to get into his mind, and when we're trying to analyze this stuff from outside. But there is one statistic that I want to put out there that, as Calvin explained, is not necessarily all because of him. It might be even despite him, But the guy invested like $180 million into this team when they were at a very low point. And then 13 years later, he sold his stake for $3 billion.
All right. Well, maybe he was a lot better at the NBA business, but you know, maybe,
but there was other factors.
Maybe the business side of things he was pretty solid on, and just the on court winning was
the NBA itself had experienced quite a lot of growth in that time frame. So the franchises themselves were like, what was explained to me was like a stake in the Los Angeles team. Which ones are there? The Lakers or the other ones? I don't know. The Clippers. Sold for like $2 billion in 2014. You know, so no, was it 2014 or 2004? 2014. So in that same period when Michael Jordan was buying into the team, the big market teams were still, $2-3 billion franchises there for percentages of those.
Gotcha. So
his fortune grew along with the NBA, despite what people would say is his mismanagement of the team itself.
Yeah. Man, those are just some wildly big numbers, aren't they?
Aren't they?
Billion.
Do you know what trips me out, though? I swear I'm starting to get annoyed with this, actually.
Okay.
Now, all the freaking politicians, every other word out of their mouth when they talk about anything to do with numbers is trillion.
Yeah.
Trillion. Yeah. Somebody said this is Trump's $1 trillion war the other day. And I was like, do you people understand that a trillion is like, what is 1,000 billion?
Yeah, I think at this point we're just going to start here, and it's going to cost $1 bajillion or something like that. We're just going to start making numbers up because honestly, they're so big that you can't even fathom them. Like I think somebody was saying like, what is 1 million seconds? Do you know how long 1 million seconds is?
1 million seconds?
Yeah, like how long? It's 11.
Like in years or?
Yeah, like it's 11 days, right? That's a million seconds.
Okay.
But how long is 1 billion seconds?
It's like 30 years?
31 years.
31.
Isn't that wild? Like it's such a big, and then 1 trillion years is like,
what? Yeah, that's the thing. And I
30,000 years or something.
I think that this is going too far.
Yeah, it's crazy.
Because I don't think that there's that many trillions in the world.
Yeah, I don't know. I think there are, like, I don't think anybody's a trillionaire like on paper, but I think secretly there's some of those Saudi guys in the Middle East who are actually trillionaires.
I mean, they might be. It just, those numbers get to such a big point, though. It's
crazy.
1,000 billion. Think about that.
No, I'm with you. Unfathomable. Unfathomable.
I mean, and just to so casually say it these days.
Yeah. Well, anyway, that's it for this episode. Check us out on turtlesmith.com, at turtlesmithok at all of our socials. Any final thoughts?
No, man. Just whatever you're doing, try to do the best you can at it and enjoy it while you're doing it.
All right. If you made it this far, please like and subscribe, and check us out Thursdays, 4:30 Central for our live. We'll answer any business question you have.
We sure will.
All right.
Dude, I almost made a Jeffrey Epstein joke.